Right now, in this very moment, you are one decision away from a completely different life. Not next year, not someday, but today. Because the truth is, your life is not shaped by what happens to you. It is shaped by the choices you make when fear shows up. And fear always shows up right before growth, right before change, right before breakthrough. Yet so many people let it take the wheel. They let it decide where they go, what they try, who they become. And without realizing it, they slowly shrink their dreams to fit the size of their comfort zone. Fear has been misunderstood for far too long, treated like an enemy, a warning sign telling you to stop, retreat, and stay where you are. Fear was never designed to protect your potential. It was designed to signal growth, because fear only shows up when you are standing at the edge of something meaningful, something unfamiliar, something that demands more from you than who you have been so far. And that is why fear appears strongest right before transformation, not after it. Think about every major breakthrough in your life, every moment that shaped you, every decision that expanded your identity. Fear was there, your heart racing, your mind searching for certainty, your body craving safety. Yet on the other side of that discomfort was strength you didn't know you had, confidence you hadn't earned yet, and belief that only came after action. Fear didn't mean you were weak. It meant you were stepping into something that mattered. The problem begins when fear is misread as danger instead of direction. When people hear fear and assume it means stop instead of grow, retreat instead of rise, settle instead of stretch. And over time, this misunderstanding builds invisible walls, walls made of hesitation, doubt, and excuses that feel reasonable but quietly steal momentum. Because every time fear says don't, and you listen, you reinforce the idea that comfort is safer than courage. Fear is a signal that your limits are being challenged, that your current identity is being questioned, and that your next level is asking for your participation. It shows up when you're about to speak your truth, take a risk, change your path, or demand more from life. And if you wait for fear to disappear before moving forward, you will wait forever, because fear does not vanish through thinking. It dissolves through action. When you reinterpret fear as a call forward, something powerful happens. You stop asking, how do I avoid this feeling? And start asking, what is this feeling trying to teach me? You realize fear is not there to stop you. It's there to test your commitment, to ask how badly do you want the life you say you want? Because dreams without discomfort are fantasies, and growth without fear is an illusion. The most fulfilled people are not fearless, they are decisive. They feel the same fear, the same uncertainty, the same resistance, but they no longer let it determine their direction. They use it as confirmation that they are moving toward expansion, toward truth, toward alignment. And every time they move forward despite fear, they train their nervous system to associate courage with safety and stagnation with risk. Fear is not the enemy of success. Avoidance is, hesitation is, and the refusal to listen to what fear is pointing toward, because fear is a signal calling you forward into the next version of yourself, the version that exists only on the other side of the step. You keep delaying. Every decision you make is shaping your life in ways you rarely stop to examine. And when fear is the lens through which those decisions are made, it quietly shrinks what is possible for you. Not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, subtly, in ways that feel safe in the moment and costly in the long run. Because fear does not demand that you quit your dreams. It simply asks you to postpone them, to lower your expectations, to choose what feels certain over what feels meaningful. Fear-driven decisions often disguise themselves as logic. They sound responsible, practical, even wise, yet beneath that surface is the same question repeating itself. What if I fail? What if I lose? What if I'm judged? And when those questions guide your choices, you begin constructing a life designed to minimize pain rather than maximize purpose. And a life built around avoidance will never feel deeply fulfilling, no matter how comfortable it becomes. When fear decides for you, you stop trusting your intuition and start negotiating with your limitations. You talk yourself out of opportunities before they even arrive. You settle for relationships that feel safe instead of ones that challenge you to grow. You remain in environments that drain you because leaving feels uncertain. And over time, these small decisions compound, shaping not just what you do, but how you see yourself, reinforcing the belief that you are someone who plays it safe rather than someone who plays to win. The danger of fear-based decisions is not failure. It is regret. because the pain of discipline fades, but the pain of wondering what might have been lingers. And one day you look back and realize that fear did not protect you from loss. It simply delayed your progress. It kept you from discovering your strength, your resilience, your capacity to adapt and rise when things didn't go as planned. Fear limits not because it is powerful, but because it is familiar. The brain is wired to seek certainty, to avoid the unknown, even if the known is unfulfilling. And so fear convinces you that staying where you are is safer than stepping into who you could become. And each time you agree, your world gets smaller, your standards lower, your hunger quieter, until ambition begins to feel unrealistic instead of natural. But the moment you recognize that fear has been influencing your choices, you gain back control, because awareness breaks the pattern. You start questioning not whether something feels scary, but whether it aligns with who you want to be, and that shift changes everything. Fear loses its authority when purpose takes the lead, and decisions begin to reflect growth rather than avoidance. The most meaningful progress in life never comes from waiting until fear disappears. It comes from choosing forward motion despite it. Because fear-based decisions don't just limit your opportunities, they limit your identity, and the fastest way to expand both is to stop letting fear decide and start letting vision lead. From the moment you were born, you began absorbing rules about who you're supposed to be, what is acceptable, what is realistic, and what is possible. And most of those rules were never consciously chosen. They were inherited, repeated, and reinforced through experiences, expectations, and emotional moments that shaped how you see yourself and the world. And over time, those patterns became so familiar that they started to feel like truth rather than conditioning. Your past does not exist as a prison, it exists as a reference. Yet many people live as if every past failure, disappointment, or criticism has the authority to define their future. They carry old stories forward, stories of rejection, inadequacy, or limitation, and allow them to speak louder than their current potential, forgetting that who you were when those stories were created is not who you are now. Conditioning is powerful because it feels personal, but in reality it is often borrowed. A parent's fear, a teacher's doubt, a culture's limitation, passed down and accepted without question. And when you live from conditioning instead of choice, you react instead of create. You follow familiar paths instead of forging new ones, and you unconsciously protect an identity that may no longer serve you. The past only has power when it goes unquestioned, when experiences are mistaken for conclusions instead of lessons, and the moment you challenge the meaning you've attached to what happened, you loosen its grip. Because events themselves are neutral, it is the interpretation that determines whether they become fuel or chains. And most people never revisit those interpretations, they simply live them out repeatedly. You are not required to be loyal to an outdated version of yourself. Growth demands that you release beliefs that once kept you safe, but now keep you small. And this is where fear often appears, not because you are doing something wrong, but because you are stepping beyond the limits of what feels familiar. And unfamiliarity can feel threatening even when it is healthy. When you allow your past to dictate your future, you confuse experience with destiny. But experience only informs, it does not decide. You decide, and the moment you take responsibility for that choice, you reclaim authorship of your life. You move from being a product of your history to the creator of your direction. Every time you make a decision based on who you were instead of who you are becoming, you reinforce the past. But every time you act in alignment with your vision despite old doubts, you weaken those pate, RNS, and slowly, deliberately, you build evidence. You are more capable than your conditioning ever allowed you to believe. Your future does not require permission from your past. It requires courage in the present. Because the life you want will not emerge from repeating what is familiar. It will emerge from redefining what is possible. And the moment you stop letting old stories decide new outcomes, you step into a future that is chosen, not inherited. Courage has been romanticized as something only a few extraordinary people possess, as if it is a personality trait you are either born with or without. But the truth is, courage is a skill, a practice, a decision made in moments when fear is present and comfort is available. And the misunderstanding begins when people believe courage means the absence of fear, because if that were true, growth would be impossible. Fear is a natural response to uncertainty, change, and risk, and its presence does not indicate weakness. It indicates awareness. Yet many people wait for fear to disappear before they act. not realizing that fear does not vanish through waiting. It fades through engagement, through movement, through choosing action even when certainty is unavailable. Courage is built the same way strength is built in the body, through resistance, not avoidance. Every time you act despite fear, you train your nervous system to tolerate uncertainty, you expand your emotional capacity, and you develop trust in your ability to adapt. And over time, what once felt terrifying becomes manageable, then familiar, then empowering. The absence of fear is not the goal. Mastery is, and mastery begins when you stop fighting fear and start leading it. When you acknowledge its presence without surrendering your direction. Fear can exist in your body without controlling your behavior, and that distinction is where personal power lives. C, courage shows up in quiet moments, not just dramatic ones. It appears when you speak up instead of staying silent, when you leave what is comfortable for what is meaningful, when you set boundaries, when you try again after disappointment. These moments may not look heroic from the outside, but they redefine your identity from the inside. The more you practice courage, the less fear dominates your decisions, not because fear disappears, but because your confidence grows. Confidence is not certainty of success. It is certainty that you can handle the outcome, whatever it may be, and that certainty only comes from experience, from showing yourself repeatedly that fear does not have the final say. When courage becomes a habit, fear becomes information instead of instruction. It tells you where growth is required, where alignment is being tested, and where your next level is waiting. And instead of avoiding those signals, you learn to follow them intentionally. A life lived without fear is not possible, but a life controlled by fear is optional. And the difference is courage, practiced daily in small decisions that compound into transformation, because mastery of fear is not about eliminating discomfort. It is about choosing expansion anyway. And that choice, repeated over time, reshapes who you are and what you believe is possible. Life does not change in one dramatic moment. It changes in the small, often unnoticed decisions you make when the outcome is unclear and the risk feels real. Because in those moments, you reveal your standards, your values, and your level of self-trust. And it is not the conditions around you that define your future. It is the choices you make when certainty is unavailable. Uncertainty is uncomfortable because it removes the illusion of control. Yet it is the gateway to every form of growth, progress, and transformation. And when you face uncertainty, you have two options. Retreat into what feels safe or step forward into what feels aligned. And the direction you choose in those moments quietly shapes the trajectory of your life. Many people wait for clarity before they act, not realizing that clarity is often the result of action, not the prerequisite. And by postponing decisions until they feel ready, they allow fear to masquerade as patience, hesitation to look like wisdom, and in doing so, they remain stuck in cycles that feel familiar but unfulfilling. The quality of your life is directly tied to the quality of your decisions, not the ease of them, because easy decisions create a life of convenience, while difficult decisions create a life of meaning. And the most meaningful decisions are often made when you don't yet have all the answers, when you are required to trust yourself rather than the situation. When faced with uncertainty, the question is not what guarantees success, but what aligns with who you are becoming. Because decisions rooted in alignment build momentum, confidence, and resilience, even when outcomes are imperfect. And each aligned decision strengthens your ability to navigate future challenges with greater clarity and self-belief. Avoiding uncertainty does not eliminate risk. It simply shifts it into the future, where regret and dissatisfaction grow, while embracing uncertainty builds adaptability, creativity, and inner stability, qualities that no external condition can take away. And over time, these qualities become the foundation of a deeply fulfilling life. Every time you choose courage over comfort in an uncertain moment, you reinforce the belief that you can handle whatever comes next. And that belief becomes a powerful force, shaping how you approach challenges, relationships, and opportunities, transforming fear from an obstacle into a compass. Life rewards those who decide, not those who wait, because waiting is a decision too, one that often leads back to the same place, while decisive action, even imperfect, creates movement, learning, and growth. And the accumulation of these moments defines not just what you achieve, but who you become. Your life is not the result of luck or circumstance. It is the reflection of the decisions you make, when the path is unclear, when fear is present, and when growth is calling. Because in those moments, you are not just choosing an outcome, you are choosing the direction of your life